and welcome to I Talk to Ghosts, a podcast that should never be left unsupervised during the full moon. I'm your haunted host, Jennifer, a spirit medium and a teller of ghost stories. Dear listener, September's full moon is coming up next week in just a few days. Let's celebrate it with some spooky. Tonight I have some full moon ghost stories to read to you. Then after that, let's get a little witchy. I'm going to discuss the basics for working with the moon phases, including my own rituals that aren't your basic examples. I love taking concepts and making them my own, and you should too. Also, I'll lead you through the enchanting practice of charging moon water and lovely magical ways you can use it once you have it. In between the spooky and the lunar magic, join me at my seance table for a message from the spirits. I dedicate that time and space for a spirit to come close and pass along a message for someone listening to the podcast. And since you are, this message could be for you. Thank you for joining me in the silver moonlight, dear listener. Now, gather close for some ghost stories. One foggy night, during a full moon, a friend and I decided to go on a moonlit adventure. We were going to explore an abandoned old mansion on the edge of town. My friend had visited this gloomy location a few times already without me. He described it as a decrepit 2-story house with a basement and an attic, with each floor still filled with dusty furniture, discarded belongings, and abandoned secrets. As it was being described to me, I decided I wanted to check it out. It was around 11 p.m. that night that my friend and I decided to go. We felt this weird attraction to the house. I don't know why or how to explain it. It just felt like something simply wanted us there. On the way there, we started talking about creepy stuff like portals, or what if when we were in the house, the door slammed shut and locked us in. We finally arrived at the narrow, long driveway, which in itself was creepy. The fog was so thick you could barely see around you. The fields surrounding the house looked as if they were almost glowing because the fog was so thick and white from the full moon. We made our way up the long, narrow driveway and around to the back side of the house. I had a sense that someone was watching me, but I was so intrigued at how astonishingly creepy yet beautiful the house was. We made our way to the back porch where the doors were oddly already opened, as if someone was just inviting us in. The porch's floorboards groaned under our steps, and the sound seemed to travel ahead into the darkness of the house, echoing there in announcement of our arrival. Right as we were crossing the threshold, we heard a terrible noise from inside. From far back, deep inside the house, came a terrible, heavy movement. I can only describe it as something large, terribly large, was charging through the house, crashing past furniture, slamming and smashing into anything in its path to get to us. I panicked. I turned and I ran back to the car, praying that my friend was behind me as I fled down the long driveway. Once at the safety of our car, I turned, instantly relieved to see my friend joining me. The driveway behind him was empty of everything but the full moon light. Still creeped out, as we drove away, I envisioned someone behind me. Not physically, but mentally envisioned a man. In my mind's eye, I saw a tall man, grayish beard, grayish hair, long-sleeved dark blue striped shirt and jeans. He was standing there on the back porch, just watching us drive away. In my mind's eye, he stood there motionless, expressionless, and had a blank, slightly disturbing look on his face. He looked kind of mad. I didn't say anything to my friend until we had gotten back to the house. When I told him, he looked at me in disbelief and said, "There's no way. There's a picture in the attic of a man exactly like you described." He had been in the house before, and I had no reason to think he was lying to me. Still, I'm in disbelief. But who was that man? What's the history of that house? And what happened there? My friend had been there many times, but never on a full moon. If I ever go back, it won't be while the moon is full. This story of mine takes place at my grandparents' house 4 years ago. My family is very spiritual, and many of us have encountered spirits of some sort. We believe that the willow tree is called a weeping willow due to spirits being trapped inside of it. I was staying at my grandparents' for the weekend when this story took place. My grandparents were working outside on their flower beds and the garden, and my grandfather was trying to trim the leaves of the willow tree because they had grown too long. He got frustrated doing it and started cursing and calling the tree names. My grandmother was nearby and told him to stop trimming the leaves in such a way and to apologize because he was going to upset the spirits trapped in the tree. He told her that was nonsense and continued on the way he was. That night was the full moon. Everyone was up chatting since my mother and sister were also visiting. All of a sudden, we heard this wailing. It was so loud and high-pitched. It almost sounded like a girl, but at the same time, an animal. The dog immediately started to cry and hid under the table, something he had never done. The wailing continued for about 3 minutes, so my grandfather went out to the balcony to see what it was. There was nothing out there. We all decided to investigate outside, and no one could see anything out of the ordinary in the moonlight. We could hear the wailing circling around the house, as if the spirit was running around it crying. My grandfather was always in the woods on his property. He was also a hunter, and he knew animals and their specific sounds. What really frightened us was that he had never heard anything like this before. Our 2 neighbors, they had even went outside in shock and couldn't see anything. They went back inside, terrified. We all knew my grandfather had upset the spirits. The crying didn't stop for 2 hours. After it stopped, we all went to bed, but my sister and I just couldn't sleep. We went home on Sunday, and nothing happened again until a month later on another full moon. My grandparents phoned us in the morning and told us the spirit came back around the same time for a few hours again. My grandmother told us that she was going to tell my grandfather to apologize or else it would happen again during the next full moon. He apologized, and nobody has ever experienced anything like this again. Back in 2015, my husband and I decided to take in the full moon and use our new fire pit in the backyard. As always, I had my phone easily accessible to take pictures, and I wanted to get a good one of the roaring fire. What I noticed thereafter blew me away. While looking at one of the pictures I had recently taken, I noticed the glow from the fire, but I also noticed an image of what appears to be a young boy with his head slightly turned and looking away, standing next to one of our patio chairs. His head, as well as his body, is highly visible. He appears to be wearing overalls, farmer's clothing, and not from this time. According to a good psychic friend of mine, he wasn't our only visitor that night, enjoying the beautiful full moon and our fire. Apparently, we had 3 visitors that night. Even my husband, who's usually a skeptic when it pertains to the supernatural, is now a believer due to this image. In addition, before this picture was taken, my child was playing and giggling at someone. We thought she was laughing at our dog, but it turns out it was someone else. We also experienced wind shifts when the fire flames got too close. It felt as if our guests were trying to protect us from the fire. It felt as if they wanted to be a part of our world but didn't want to be near us, which explains why the boy was sitting away from where we were at the time I had taken the picture. Whenever we use the fire pit, I'm always hoping that our guest will reappear again. I haven't yet seen his presence within any pictures again, but I'm hoping someday he'll come visit us again during the full moon. Spooky season is upon us. Listen to I Talk to Ghosts for an atmospheric chill and to never feel alone, knowing the spirits are always around you. The autumn months are the perfect time to share and recommend this podcast to your ghoulish friends. Thank you for supporting the podcast and sharing the spooky. Hello and welcome back to I Talk to Ghosts. I have a message from the spirits this evening, so thank you for joining me in the candlelight. Tonight, as I work, I have with me Moonstone. Since we are talking about the full moon, I thought this was appropriate. Moonstone helps connect you with that lunar energy around us, so it's perfect to have near you when you are doing moon work. And also its vibrations help you tune and enhance your intuition. That is Moonstone. During this time, I clear the space, quiet my mind, set the intention for a spirit to come close. There is a man here with me tonight. I'm having a hard time figuring out what his relationship was to you. So I'm wondering if this is someone's uncle as well as someone's husband. So 2 people who happen to catch this message. It might be for both of you. This man feels very gregarious. He loved to tell stories. He was always recounting events that happened to him or just stories and things that have happened along the way in life. Any kind of storytelling aspect. He just loves socializing in that way. He was often tinkering about. I'm seeing a pickup truck that he's throwing gear and supplies into and going off and having an adventure definitely feels like back roads, fishing, woods, but he might also be running errands into town or going to the pick and pull and finding some car parts that he needs for his current project. I see him always wearing a hat, and I'm seeing like a utility vest or something where he would keep a pen, or I don't know if he smoked, maybe he had a lighter in there, just things that he needed to carry with him to have handy for whatever his adventure was for the day. It was not uncommon for him to come back, mud on his pants, car grease, getting into things, getting into life, being messy. And normally with that, there might be a story that went along with it, like how he slipped or how something spilled, or he had this way of just being exuberant about what happened to him that day. Other people, if it had happened to them, they might not see it that way. But his attitude was just always positive and love to share. His message for you tonight, if this is for two people, I see one person having trouble committing to a decision or decisions, kind of really torn and not being able to figure it out. He wants to joke about that. It's like, just do either, do both, do something. There are very few decisions in life that you can't kind of explore and then go back with. But he's like, just play with it. Just have fun. Just do it. It doesn't matter. Things are going to be fine. Just explore and be curious. Be curious as you go. And he wants to give you a big bear hug and a kiss on the cheek and mess up your hair and send you on your way. If you could take some of his lightheartedness into your analytical mind, it would be good for you. Now, his other message, and this feels like it's for a spouse. It feels like he wanted to stay forever and take care of you, and his heart is so big. There wasn't anything he wouldn't do for you, and he never wanted to stop. And he always felt in life that if he passed, it could only let you down, because he wanted to be there for you always. So know that you are still connected. He still loves you so much, and he does want to give you that energy of love and comfort and support throughout life. And he is so happy when you are happy. And if you ever have him popping into your mind and wondering about him, it's because he's close and he is sharing with you still. It kind of feels like his passing was a while ago and you've remarried, and he wants you to know that he is completely at peace with that. So never ever worry. And he loves you so much, and he wants all the happiness in life for you still. I think you know what I'm going to say next, that I'm going to leave it at that. If these messages connect for you, I hope they find you well, and that they fill in the blanks for you a little bit and just help with the healing and the reassurance that we are always still connected to each other through love and spirit. Thank you. Would you like a free spirit reading with me and record your reading for the podcast? Sign up for your chance to be selected by visiting italktoghosts.com/guest. And as an added bonus, if you don't want to leave your reading up to chance, I'll let you in on a secret. There's a discount offer to book a private session with me, so you can book a date and time for certain. Visit italktoghosts.com/guest for more details. I can't wait to meet you. A special note, September's full moon brings with it an eclipse. Some people feel cautious about doing full moon work during an eclipse. Others don't pay the eclipse any attention and treat it as any other full moon. This decision is completely up to you as far as what you believe and how you want to work. Hello and welcome back to I Talk to Ghosts. Lady Moon is shining down on us, so thank you for sharing this magical evening with me. Our pale moon has long been said to influence our behavior in many ways. If you've ever dreamed about what it would be like for the moon to influence you with intention, this coming full moon is a great place to start. The full moon, in all its shimmering loveliness, symbolizes completion since its entire surface is illuminated. It's a time to be receptive and open and take in its light. It's a time of big emotion and spiritual growth. Celebrate it as a completion for any goals that you've accomplished during this cycle, and also kind of see it as the beginning of realizing what you need to let go as the moon starts waning. During the full moon, you may feel creative, restless, sensitive, or even exhausted. Whatever it is you are feeling, it's very much a personal experience, and it's okay. It might be more helpful than you might realize to make a personal moon journal. In fact, I love this idea. If anyone wants to gather with me online, I'd be happy to organize that. But I'm kind of getting away from myself. Let's cycle back to talking about the moon. After the full moon, the next phase is the waning moon. After the full moon, every night the moon rises with less and less light on its right side. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, the waning moon is a fantastic time to be removing or letting go of things in your life that you no longer want, because this coincides with what the moon is doing. So as the moon loses its light, you are letting go of thoughts, situations, physical objects, or anything else in your life that is no longer serving you. It can be a very personal and therapeutic time. And of course, what it looks like and at what pace is completely up to you. I personally like to do a bit of housekeeping during this time, cleaning up the clutter, getting rid of it, sorting through my things, donating things that I don't use that others could benefit from. It's a perfect time to really assess what's going on in your life. And that could include paring down your busyness. Like, we all kind of feel that there's not enough time in the day. Really examine what your behavior is. Are you scrolling on your phone too much, spending too much time in front of the TV? Just really examine what you're using your time for, and is that beneficial to you, or should you let those behaviors go? I also think it's a good time to examine what you're eating and drinking. Are these things that you're taking into your body beneficial to you? And do you want to lessen that a bit, kind of let that go a little bit? At the very least, scheduling this time to consider these things is a helpful practice. Maybe everything is okay and you don't have anything to let go of, but giving yourself the space to actually make that decision instead of kind of being on autopilot is really beneficial. Again, all of this is completely up to you. What's wonderful about working with the moon phases is that you can connect and feel a part of something that is larger than yourself. There's a comfort there and a magical flow that can be subtle but still very powerful. Now the moon wanes each night until finally the total surface of the moon is in darkness, which is the new moon. The new moon is perfect for deep reflection. If you're familiar with shadow work, it's the practice of diving into the deeper parts of your psyche. to understand yourself better and to cultivate self-compassion. The dark moon is ideal for transformative work. It is a time of kind of hibernating, going deep, dreaming, connecting with all aspects of yourself. I love to be very contemplative during the new moon. I see it as a very quiet time. I really love to do quiet activities during this time, activities that don't really require a lot of sound or talking, such as journaling or deep meditation work. It can all be very silent and personal and very soothing and calming. Now from there, set your intentions because the moon is going to start waxing each night with more silver light. And with it, in synchronicity, you can work towards completing goals and attracting what you desire more of in your life. This is a time of planning and planting. What practices and mindsets do you want to grow? It's a great time for creating and building, again, working towards a goal up until the full moon. And as the moon is building, hopefully you're tapped into that energy and your actions and your results are building as well. And you can just really celebrate and be excited about the developments in your life that you're working towards and putting your energy into. During this phase, it's a great time for creating and building. Mayhaps it's a good time to gather supplies and make that moon journal. The waxing phase accumulates with the full moon, where again, we celebrate our completed goals and our accomplishments. Even if you're not finished at this point, it can at least be a check-in as to, wow, look how much I've accomplished. Really acknowledge it and celebrate it. The full moon is an energetic high point where our seeds cast during the new moon come into bloom. I hope you can see and feel how this all dances together in a lovely cycle. These have been just the very, very basics. There are actually 8 phases of the lunar cycle in which you can weave your life's magic into. Now, a little bit more about the full moon. The full moon is associated with the third eye, throat, and heart chakras. As the moon waxes, draw in the moon's energy and envision changes you would like to see in your life. It's a great time for psychic development, heart-centered emotional work, and work with the throat chakra. Speak your ideas, your mind, your emotions. Also, listen and take in what the world around you is telling you. As the moon wanes to the new moon, the 3 lower chakras come into play: the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root chakras. Use this energy to keep yourself grounded and supported. Tap into that new moon energy for self-care and self-support. Make it very quiet and comforting. Because when we slow down and we give ourselves space to reflect, new ideas and emotions can bloom out of seemingly nowhere. Perfect for the waxing phase of planning and achieving. Okay, let's talk about moon water now. You may have heard of moon water, but what is it? How do you make it? And what do you use it for? Moon water is a simple spell you can do to charge or infuse water under the energy of the moon. Lunar energy focuses on the subconsciousness and can help be a guide to finding insight into our spirit, our soul, and our higher self. Making moon water is simple. Just take some distilled or filtered water, find a glass or a clear bottle or bowl, and you place your water on a windowsill to absorb the moonlight during the phase of the moon you wish to work with. The most common phases are the full moon and the new moon. Full moon water is great for blessings, to use for anointing or dressing candles, or adding an extra oomph to future spell work. New moon water is used for cleansing, new beginnings, and creating that lovely reset vibe to help you just let things go. If you'd like to incorporate crystals into this practice, you can do so by placing them in or near your water. Just be mindful of the physical elements of your crystals if you do intend to drink your water. Placing crystals near your water is just fine to add that vibrational push to what you're doing. Use quartz for intuition charging, amethyst for calm and better sleep, rose quartz for emotional healing. Create your water based on your intention. You decide what you're going to use your moon water for. So the act of creating your moon water is influenced by your intentions, what you plan on using the moon water for, what energies you're working with this cycle. If you've ever asked yourself the question of what moon water is used for, the answer is inside of you. What do you want to use your moon water for? So plan accordingly and prepare similar to some of the suggestions that I've offered, but really make it your own. Moon water is a simple way to focus your intentions, and with it, now you have a physical representation of your focus to work with. You can place full moon water in a spray bottle and bless the air around you. You can add new moon water to a ritual bath to cleanse away unwanted vibes and tendencies. Add your moon water to spell work for additional intention, or use it in a magical tea for you to drink. Be creative with it and use it as a way to connect nature into your rituals and mindset for extra encouragement and resolve as you set out to do the things you wish to do to shape your magical life. And with that, dear listener, we've reached the end of this episode of I Talk to Ghosts. I hope you've enjoyed the full moon ghost stories that I shared with you this evening, my spirit work, as well as this full discussion on the lunar phases and ways that you can weave its magic into your life. Do you have a lunar ritual that you'd be comfortable sharing? If so, I would love to discuss it with you. In the meantime, wherever you wander off to in this world or the next, just remember, come back and visit with me. Have a lovely evening and good night.